The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. Yeah!
Hi, welcome to the Pool Guy Podcast Show. In this episode, I'm going to talk to you about getting ready for the winds. If you're in Southern California, the Santa Ana winds are an annual, or I should say seasonal event. It happens actually more than once a year, and it may happen as many as 6 or 8 times. You may get these major storms. So I'm going to go over what you should be thinking or doing right before a major windstorm and how to prepare for it for your pool service company. Pool Service Pro, open a Leslie's wholesale account today and receive wholesale pricing on products you use every day. Leslie's Pool Supply offers convenient locations that are open 7 days a week. Another great benefit of opening a Leslie's wholesale account is Leslie's referral program. Get referred to a customer looking for weekly pool service. Also receive priority service, enhanced rebate programs, a discount on your general liability insurance through SPA, a discount on your pool routing software through Skimmer, and an opportunity to co-brand with Leslie's on your social media, website, truck, and more. Save time and money and grow your pool service route and become a Leslie's Pro. If you're new to the industry and you've never been through a windstorm, I gotta tell you that when you walk back to some of these pools, you're probably going to feel like you should be working at Walmart or In-N-Out Burger. You're not going to want to be doing pool service. And many of the techs out there that hire new employees have had them quit on them after a major windstorm. It's worse than the heat. It's worse than the rain. It's worse than any other thing you can think of. The windstorms are real, and they're a real pain. I'm really obsessed with the weather, and my wife gets on me all the time because I'm looking at the weather report every day, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, because what I'm looking for is any kind of warning that the Santa Ana winds are coming, or you're going to have a Santa Ana wind event. And it's gotten so good in Southern California that they can kind of isolate it and let you know what part of the region is going to hit. And if you're not familiar with California, we have Los Angeles County, and then we have Orange County, San Diego County, and San Bernardino County, Riverside County. They're all like within, this kind of map of each other. They're all connected in one way or the other to each other. And the winds don't usually hit the same areas each time they blow. And what's really interesting is that some areas get hit a lot worse, and some areas have no wind at all that day. So it could be blowing 60 miles an hour in Riverside County, and then you're in Los Angeles County 40 minutes away, and maybe there's a slight breeze blowing and you can see the trees moving a little bit, but nothing to write home about. And so it's kind of a weird event, and it's rare when the Santa Ana winds hit the whole region, but this is something to be aware of if you are servicing Southern California. Northern California has their own wind events all the time also, and then of course parts of Texas, and I'm not going to leave Florida off here. Florida gets the hurricanes, and so they're more familiar with windstorms than most people are if you're on the coast that gets them. I've heard that the Tampa side doesn't get as many hurricanes as the other side of Florida, but hurricanes would be similar to the winds that we get here. The last Santa Ana wind event that hit my area, I believe it was late January, the winds were so strong they were clocked at 89 miles an hour, which is hurricane type winds. So you can imagine the devastation after a windstorm with winds of that magnitude. And so be prepared to see pools where you're kind of looking at them and not knowing what to do or where to start. There may be lawn furniture at the bottom. There may be barbecues. There may be potted plants. I had this one account where the potted plant blew in there. This is a big, gigantic potted plant that maybe weighs 100 pounds full of soil. The good thing is, since it was on the bottom of the pool, it became very buoyant, so I was actually able to hook it and drag it towards the shallow end. The bad news is, once I got it towards the shallow end, I couldn't get it out of the water. It was just way too heavy. So I left it on the step, kind of leaning against the step for the customer, and pretty much told them, hey, I can't get this thing out. It just weighs a ton. And stuff like that's going to happen in a windstorm. Patios will blow in there. Umbrellas will blow in there. Patios? Did I say patios? I guess maybe not the whole patio, but umbrellas will blow in there. Patio furniture will blow in there. Tables. I've had glass tables shatter and fall into the pool. All this kind of stuff happens, and it's one of those things where it's going to be really messy. And the first step is to assess the pool. Okay, how much can I do here to get this pool operational? And I should back up a little bit and let you know that I have a time limit that I spend on each account. And it may not be realistic to think of, but my time limit is 25. And if I need to, I'll spend 30 minutes at an account. Because if you think about it, if you have 15 pools to get to and you're spending an hour at each pool, there's not enough daylight to finish. And then the mistake is you don't finish, then you're trying to add it on to the next day. And by Friday, you have 20 pools left and you can't get to them. So 25 to 30 minutes is your maximum time at each of these stops. And what can you do with that amount of time? The first thing you can do is get the pool running. So you want to get the surface clean. So you may be spending 20 minutes just skimming the surface. Some of them are that bad. And once you get the surface skimmed, you're not touching the bottom because you ran out of time basically. So get the surface skimmed, turn off the automatic cleaner if they have a suction cleaner or a pressure cleaner. Just leave it off all week because it's not going to do any good with all the debris on the bottom. And just get the filter running on skimmer mode and have that pool circulating and let the customer know you'll be back the following week to finish the work. A service agreement is a great way to put this in writing so that the customer knows that you're not going to be spending an hour there. The last thing you want is to get a call from the customer after you leave saying, hey, why didn't you finish my pool? It looks really bad. You were here only for 30 minutes. It's not even clean. The way to hedge that or to head that off or stop that from happening is to have a service agreement. And in that agreement, it tells the customer that in a wind event, it's pretty much an act of God and you can't control that. It's not part of your regular service. And so it's going to be a 2 or 3 week period to get the pool back in shape. I mentioned this often here that I have a service agreement template in Word format. If you want that agreement, it's a one-page agreement. It's really simple. You can email me at david@swimmingpoollearning.com. Again, that's david@swimmingpoollearning.com. And I'll email you that service agreement. It may take a little bit of time, but I'll get it over to you. And then you can use that on your route, especially during a wind event where it's kind of outlined that you're not going to be there for an hour and a half getting the pool back in shape. It's just impossible. You have other accounts to get to. You're going to just do the basics. And what's good about this is that once you go through a year or two of this, the customers kind of are trained that in a wind event that you're not going to be cleaning the whole pool entirely. And so they may actually help you by skimming the surface of the pool, and that leaves you the bottom of the pool. And this happens a lot on my route. When there's a major wind event, usually if it happens like on a Monday or Tuesday, I'm pretty certain that most of the customers, later in the week are going to have skimmed the surface already, and that way I just have to work on the bottom. I've had some customers skim the surface and skim the bottom with a leaf rake and leave the pool in pretty decent shape for me. It's not common to do both, but if you train the customer that, I'm only going to be there for 25 minutes, and so if you can help out, you don't have to say that, but if they can help out and skim the surface, then you can do the bottom. And it'll catch on after 2 or 3 major windstorms that this is better if they kind of lend a hand and use their leaf rake. And of course, you have to have a leaf rake for the customer there. So make sure they have a decent leaf rake and a decent pole. And so I make sure all my customers have a leaf rake in the pole so they can help out when necessary. It's also good for them to have that in case maybe a rodent falls in the bottom and they can scoop it out. Or if they have a party, they can use that leaf rake to clean the pool before the party. So having that at the service account is a must for the customer. And as for yourself, you definitely want to have some professional leaf rakes. I would say if you're getting a lot of heavy debris in your pools, the Purity Pool Gator is probably the go-to leaf rake for heavy debris. It's got a green rim and a black bag, so it's pretty easy to spot. And it's called the Gator. Your supplier should carry it. And I would say this is definitely a net you want to have. It's a 24 by 24 inch leaf rake. It's 24 inches wide by 24 inches deep. So a lot of times during a windstorm, you're going to have full branches blow into the pool, and this will pick them up no problem. It's very durable also. So get the Purity Pool Gator leaf rake. Also, if you want to have the Red Baron, have that one handy. That's a 20 by 20 inch leaf rake. That's the one that I use all the time during the week. And I definitely would recommend having larger leaf rakes. You don't want to have like an 18-inch leaf rake and try to do a big wind cleanup. It's just not going to be effective. So get a Red Baron or a Gator and use that on your route during the windstorms. And use a Red Baron regularly during your regular service and get used to it. Because if you are using that one regularly, you're going to be able to use it really effectively during a wind event. I wouldn't say that you would want to switch from a small leaf rake to a bigger one. Just kind of get familiar with the larger leaf rake so that you can use it a lot better during a windstorm. And then I say this often, but you should have a vacuum system on your truck, either the Riptide, Hammerhead, or Bottom Feeder. One of these would be something that you would want to invest in. I did a podcast a couple weeks ago called Pool Guy Math Wizard, and I said if you wanted to buy a vacuum system, just add one service account to your pool route and just dedicate all that money from that account towards a vacuum system. So if you're doing 75 pools a week, add one more pool, the 76th pool, and that pool is working towards a vacuum system. So all the money you get from doing that pool goes into a fund, and then at the end of the year, you'll have enough money in there to buy the vacuum system just by adding that one account to your route and earmarking that money for a vacuum system. And you may use the vacuum system maybe 2 or 3 times during the day as certain accounts and a few times during the week. And when the winds hit, you're going to really be happy that you have that vacuum system to use effectively. It's a great way to speed up the time it takes to get the leaf debris off the bottom of the pool. So for example, if the pool is pretty totaled and you're using a leaf rake, let's say you're using the Gator leaf rake, and you're just scooping out debris all over the place, because when you scoop the debris out, you actually stir it up and then you have to wait for it to settle, and you're scooping it again. Doing this for one pool is not a problem. Doing this for 14 pools, your arms get extremely tired. I don't care if you're Hercules, if you're a bodybuilder, you're going to get worn out at the end of the day by leaf raking the bottom of 14 pools, and then times that by the whole week. You're going to be pretty much, Gumby arms at the end of the week, laying on the couch exhausted. So the vacuum system not only saves you time, but it saves wear and tear on your body. And since it picks up the leaf debris faster, without much effort on your part, you're just pushing it along the bottom, you're going to be able to get through your day with a lot more energy, and your whole week, you're going to feel good at the end of the week. You're not going to feel like you just got hit by a semi-truck. You're going to have energy to get started in the next week to finish up the cleanup. You're going to get really exhausted out there without a vacuum system, and it does really speed up the time. So if it takes you 20 minutes to leaf rake a bottom of a pool, that vacuum system will take you 5 or 6 minutes. And times that by the pools on your route, and you're going to have a lot of extra time to dial these pools in, and you're going to have a lot of extra time to bring on more accounts in the future, because now you know that you can handle it at the next windstorm. If you had 10 more service accounts, not a big deal because you have a vacuum system. If you didn't have this, expanding your pool route, you'd be thinking, well, I can't really add more accounts because if there's a windstorm, I'm spending this much time with my 80 accounts already, and so I'm pretty much at my limit. So the vacuum system will not only allow you to get through the day quicker, but it also will allow you to add more service accounts to your route because now you have the equipment to handle anything at this point. And I think if you start using a vacuum system, you're going to be kicking yourself saying, why didn't I buy this earlier? Why did I wait till now to buy it? And again, it may not be something you're going to use all day long on your pools. You may just use it 10 or 12 times during the week. But when the winds hit, you're going to be so glad that you have the Riptide or Bottom Feeder. And these are definitely something to invest in. And I think everyone who services pools in wind-prone areas should have a vacuum system at one point or another. It certainly comes in handy. So let's get back to the schedule. So the first thing you do is assess the pool, get all the lawn furniture out of the bottom, get the barbecues out of the bottom, skim the surface, get the pool running, turn off the automatic cleaners if the bottom is still full of debris. So turn off the suction cleaner, turn off the pressure cleaner, and come back the next week with your vacuum system and get the debris off the bottom of the pool. And so that's a 2-week process right there. Sometimes you're skimming the surface for the first week, and then the next week you're doing the bottom. And then in between that, the winds hit again. And so you get a light dusting on the surface, the bottom gets dirty again, and you may start the process kind of over again, but maybe not as bad as the first time. Hopefully the winds are subsequently less each time, but sometimes you get 2 big storms right after each other, and you're doing the same process over again. But if you have the right equipment, you have the larger leaf rake, and you have the vacuum system, it's really not a big deal to do this process 5 or 6 times during the season. And some Santa Ana wind events or years are worse than others. And with this drought in California, the Santa Ana wind events have been worse every year. And I expect this year to be probably one of the worst years with the winds that we're going to experience in our area. A couple more helpful tips here. One of them is that if you are doing your filter cleaning during the winds, it's a bad idea. So you want to have all of your filters done before the windy season, which in my area is somewhere in mid-October. So all your filters should be done at the beginning of October. Schedule your filter cleanings for March and September, and that way you're not going to be trying to clean filters and clean pools at the same time. It's definitely a losing battle. So knock all the filters out before the wind season. The last thing you want to be doing is cleaning filters during the wind season. And also the filters being cleaned really help with the water quality of the pool and with the circulation. So having a clean filter is kind of a bonus because then you're doing less work because the skimmer is working really well and effectively. And then the water quality is not going to be compromised by having a lot of leaf debris in the pool. The second tip is to keep the chlorine level really high. Even if the water is cooling off, you want to make sure that you keep the chlorine level between 5 and 10 parts per million, especially with all the leaf debris. If you're going to leave the bottom dirty and full of leaves, you want to make sure the chlorine is pretty high so that you don't have any organic staining in the pool bottom, which means basically the leaves are going to stain the bottom temporarily. It's nothing permanent, but you just don't want that to happen. So just have the chlorine at 5 to 10 parts per million in the pool. And that usually prevents any kind of staining from the leaf debris. Make sure you get anything out of the bottom that looks like it's metal. Again, lawn furniture, barbecues. I had a 10-pound weight fall in the pool. I'm not sure how that happened, but it was on the bottom and it took forever to get this out. But if you ever have a 10-pound weight fall in the pool from a weightlifting set, the trick is to push it over to the step area, get it up on one of the steps, and then you can actually get the leaf rake underneath it. So I used the pool brush, pulled it over to a step, kind of propped it up against the step at an angle, and then I got my leaf rake and I just kind of jabbed at it real quick and I was able to get it out. So there's a lot of things that fall in the pool that's really weird, and get everything out that can stain it for sure. And you may not be able to see everything on the bottom, which kind of is unfortunate sometimes, and there may be staining from something that you didn't see, but that's just part of what happens when stuff blows in the pool. I always tell the homeowners before the Santa Ana wind event, secure all your lawn furniture, move it out of the way, get the barbecue out of the way, anything metal, make sure it's not around the pool area, anything glass, so that they know ahead of time to kind of batten down the hatches. If they were on a boat and you're going into a hurricane type storm, you would make sure everything is secure. Same thing with a pool, have the umbrellas down and make sure nothing's going to fall into the pool that's going to damage it. But unfortunately, the pools do get stained sometimes by stuff falling in there. Not much you can do about it because you're focused on the surface of the pool the first week and then the bottom the second week. And hopefully the customer skims the pool for you so you can work on the bottom the first week, but don't count on it. And you're going to have a tough week for sure, because if you see a pool that looks really bad and you're like, wow, I can't believe this pool looks like this, expect 70 more to look the same way, which is unfortunate. And one of those things that happens when you're doing pool service and dealing with any kind of windstorm, the pools are going to pretty much get totaled. And sometimes it's really amazing. Like you're kind of like standing there in awe of how bad it is. But guess what? You're the one who's got to clean it. So don't stand around too long staring at this amazing devastation, which sometimes, again, can be really amazing. Like the major windstorm we had in 2012 was clocked at 97 miles an hour, I think, on top of Mount Wilson, which is a local mountain here. And it just looked so bad that it was one of those moments where, I was, again, looking for work at Walmart at that point. Bottom line, you just have to be prepared, having the right equipment, the right mindset, the right service agreement for your customer so they know what to expect. And don't bend the rules. Don't be like, okay, this customer is great. I really like this customer. I'm going to spend an extra 20 minutes here to get it dialed in. Avoid doing that, because chances are you're not going to be able to finish your day, or you're going to be rushing through the rest of your day. You're really stressing yourself out. And if you had the vacuum system, you're going to have a better time of this. It's not going to be, something that you're looking forward to, of course, but at least it's going to be more bearable. You're going to have the right equipment. So just be prepared for it and be like me, be obsessed with the weather. Look at the weather app, watch the news if you watch the news. I don't anyone watch the news anymore, local news, but definitely keep up with the weather and don't be surprised. You want to make sure that you're not going to be surprised by a storm or a wind event. So look at the forecast, look at the extended forecast, and become like a weather nerd or maybe someone who's obsessed with the weather. And if you are caught off guard by the wind, it's going to be your own fault. They announce it usually 2 or 3 days ahead of time, sometimes longer. So get ready when they start talking about a wind event. Be prepared for it. And in all honesty, the weather is something that you should be particularly paying attention to because it really affects your work. It's like anything that affects anyone's work. So the weather is definitely something that affects your work. I have 3 weather apps on my phone. I have several weather channels on my computer that I go to all the time, and I check the weather pretty much constantly because that's part of being prepared, knowing what's coming, and definitely you want to get on top of that. If you're looking for other podcasts that I recorded on the wind events, you can just go to my website, swimmingpoollearning.com, and I also have podcasts on the vacuum systems. I drew a blank there of what I was going to say. You can look at Riptide, Bottom Feeder. The way to do that is on my website, swimmingpoollearning.com. On the banner, click on the podcast icon. There's a search box. Type in Riptide, type in Bottom Feeder, type in Wind, and then all the podcasts that I recorded on those subjects will come up, and you can listen to those at your leisure. I also have videos on YouTube about wind events, so you can go to my channel. If you're on my website, click on that YouTube icon at the top on the banner. And then on my channel, you can look at the videos I have on wind events and things of that nature. And I go over some tips on how to clean pools, and you can definitely refer to those as a reference. And if you're interested in my coaching program, you can learn more about that at poolguycoaching.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Have a great rest of your week. God bless. Pool Service Pro. Open a Leslie's wholesale account today and receive wholesale pricing on products you use every day. Leslie's Pool Supply offers convenient locations that are open 7 days a week. Another great benefit of opening a Leslie's wholesale account is Leslie's referral program. Get referred to a customer looking for weekly pool service. Save time and money and grow your pool service route and become a Leslie's Pro.